For the last couple of months, I've been dreaming of this super cute one-eared Palomino. The normal adoption fee for a BLM Mustang is $125, but I decided that this guy was worth a little bit more. Since I share so much on the internet now, I am thinking about this as a horse I can share with all of you guys, so the thought of spending almost $1,000 on a Mustang seemed pretty logical to me. I very strategically placed a bid of $927 and hoped it would be enough to bring this guy home. I've never paid very close attention to these internet adoptions. I'm lucky enough that there are in-person adoptions fairly regularly close to me. The BLM has the harrowing task of managing almost 27 million acres and 177 herd management areas across the US. Most of these herd management areas can be found in the western part of the country. To protect the native resources, these horses are usually round up, and some of them will find themselves on the internet adoption website. Horses gathered from the range are sent to holding facilities dotted across the western United States where they patiently wait adopters. Even though I do live in Montana, there were a lot of horses on this internet adoption that were nowhere close to where I am. While this little horse is currently in Nevada, there are 4 different pickup locations that potential adopters can choose. These pickup locations typically have a very specific date that the horses will be there. Transferring all these horses is a monumental task, and it is pretty beneficial for someone living on the East Coast to get one of these guys because the shipping from their initial facility to the pickup location is free. A few of the horses I really liked in this adoption were not available for me to pick up in Idaho, but thankfully this little Palomino was. Unfortunately, with a little more than 3 days left, I did get outbid by somebody on this horse. This guy has been through several internet adoptions, and for whatever reason, he keeps not finding a home. Because there is so much interest in him, I did pick out 2 alternate horses to bid on in case my final budget is not enough for this guy. The other horse that I picked out is a 3-year-old that is also available for pickup in Idaho. Definitely not as flashy compared to the yellow guy, and he is just a real solid looking citizen. The other one I picked out is a 7-year-old gelding that initially came from the Twin Peaks, California HMA, but is now located in Idaho. Since I initially decided that it is time for me to get a new horse, and that new horse could be a Mustang, I've gotten pretty excited about bringing a new one home. After visiting a few of the forums online, I did, however, realize that maybe I need to read up on how this whole internet adoption auction works. When I put in my application, I only drew a setup for 1 Mustang when technically I could handle a few if I really wanted to. A lot of people will be approved for multiple Mustangs just to use it as leverage in this auction. You are only allowed to bid on as many animals as you are approved for, and since I'm only approved for 1 animal, I can only be the winning bid on 1 horse at a time. The BLM does have a fairly extensive guide on the bidding for this auction on their website that is definitely worth reviewing before you put some bids in. I was really surprised to find out that basically throughout the whole entire process, you can cancel your bid at any time. I know that there have been a lot of people that take advantage of this in the past, and they have added a little ditty about bidding integrity on their website. Essentially, you can have the highest bid and win the horse and then pass on that horse, and then even after you pay for the horse, you can go to the facility and see it and decide that you also want to pass on it. I think that is probably the reason that this yellow horse has been passed over so many times. I think I'm finally starting to figure out how this works and how so many people get second chance offers on these Mustangs. As an example, I'm going to use this horse. The first bidder put in the minimum bid of $125. A second bidder came in at $150, and then there was a proxy bid, which means the internet automatically bid up the first bidder's initial amount. meaning the initial bidder bid much more than the 125 for their first bid. Since there's no real info on the bidder, this $200 bid could be from bidder number 2 or 3, and then again we have a proxy bid from who I'm pretty sure was bidder number 1. In the event that bidder number 1 decides not to take the horse, that means that bidder number 2 or 3 could have the horse on a second chance offer. Since I still have basically 48 hours to decide which horse I'm going to bring home, I decided not to put another bid in on that Palomino right away. I have a feeling he's going to go for way more than I am willing to spend on an unhandled, completely wild Mustang, even though he is so super cute and does deserve his own home. Typically, I am not a very organized person, so it's nice to be able to pop back into an old video and take a look at what was happening a few days ago when I checked out these horses. I definitely thought this guy had a bid on him when I very first bid on the yellow horse, and he did, but right now he has 0 bids. So that means somebody did retract their bid, and I could definitely put a bid on him if I wanted to. I'm having a really hard time wrapping my brain around the fact that people can just cancel their bids whenever they want. So before I place my own bid, I'm going to do a little bit more research on the horses that I have set aside. It seems like there's a lot of bidding and bid cancellation that goes on in the first couple of days as people kind of figure out how much everybody is willing to spend on their favorite Mustangs. At this point, all of the horses are kind of squishing together in my brain, so I am going to remove some of the ones from my list that I am really not interested in. When I went back in to check on my number 3 pick, I did see that he now has a bid on him. Once again, I looked back in my video that I posted a couple days ago and I saw that he did not have any bids at that time. So it's nice to see that somebody's interested in him, because it always bums me out when these horses don't find a home after these events. I continued to spruce up my watch list just so it was a little bit easier for me to follow. After the last video, a few of you guys put your favorite horses in the comments, and this was one of them. I think this girl is super cute. She is located at the facility in Colorado, and although it's not much farther away than the Idaho facility for me, it's a drive that is a little bit more treacherous, and I just don't want to do it in the winter. I believe that this herd management area was rounded up quite a long time ago. This girl has been in holding for 3 years, which really isn't that long to wait for a home to come along. I'm not too stressed out about my picks just yet. It seems like there is a lot of shuffling going around, so for now I'm just going to go back through my list and see what kind of horses maybe don't have any bids on them. This horse was one of my favorites, but I'm not looking for a yearling right now. If I was, I would definitely be trying to bring him home. One thing I found about these Mustangs is they can be very addictive. Compared to a lot of the full-time Mustang trainers, I really have not had that many. I did my first makeover 12 years ago now, and since then I've done a handful along the way. I tip trained a few horses and found out that just wasn't for me. Here recently, I've been very focused on rehabbing and rehoming auction horses, so my Mustang dreams have kind of sat on the wayside for a while. Sifting through hundreds of Mustangs can be a tricky proposition. I did not remember even looking at this guy. He is a really basic bay color with a cute little star and a snip, and I could not figure out why he wasn't higher up on my list. When I took a little bit of a closer look, it did say that he was only 13 hands. For these young horses, there's always a possibility that they're going to grow from the time that they're measured, which I think is the case with this guy. I'm going to leave him on my list, but I'm going to continue my hunt just to make sure I didn't miss any horses. My favorite HMA is the Sand Springs HMA out in Oregon. One of the best Mustangs I've ever had is from there, so before I make any final decisions, I'm going to go through all of the Sand Springs horses that are available for pickup in Idaho. I don't know why this guy didn't catch my eye earlier. Maybe it's because he's a plain bay. When I think of Sand Springs horses, I definitely think buckskin because that area definitely has a higher amount of them. I have a feeling that all of these plainer color ones have been passed over in the adoptions that were recently. This guy looked like he was a definite character. He was making some noise to the other horses and had some pretty sweet moves to him. All of the other Sand Springs horses listed were mayors, and they all seemed a little bit more on the reactive side for their videos. That doesn't mean they're bad horses. This is just a snapshot in time, so it really is difficult to tell from a less than 30-second video how these horses might work out for you. There were only a handful listed in this adoption auction from Sand Springs, so when I was done going through all of those, I went back to my little list that I've been developing just to kind of clear out some more of the old horses that are not available anymore. When I'm watching a horse on the internet adoption auction, I do like to leave them up in my favorites for quite a while, just in case pickup comes along and the new owners decide they are not going to take them. With a little bit over a day remaining for the bidding, I just kept coming back to this cute little brown horse. I definitely think this one is probably the most even-keeled one that I've seen as I'm looking through these videos. He just seems super outgoing, and I believe he would be a really willing partner for me to bring along. I was really upset to see as I was going through the horses that this little Palomino had now been bid up to $1,500. I had just started to feel okay with spending $1,000 on him, and now he's at $1,500, which I'm going to have a really hard time with because typically when I rehab a horse, that's about what I spend on their initial rehab. One of the reasons I stopped doing Mustangs is because they really are taken pretty good care of in the holding facilities. For the most part, these horses in holding are taken better care of than most private homes and certainly most at-risk auction horses. Thankfully, when there was about 6 hours left, this horse did get bid up to around $2,000, which is definitely out of my price range this time. One of the things I ask myself when I'm buying a new horse is if I actually want the horse or if I want people to know that I have this horse. And while this one-eared guy is super cool and I think you guys would really enjoy the process of me bringing him along, deep down I think that I would probably enjoy one of these other horses just as much or more. In the grand scheme of things, $2,000 is not a ton of money, but I do think there is a very high proxy bid put in for this horse already. After seeing that bid, I'm definitely disappointed, but I am going to keep looking at some of the horses to kind of finalize my game plan for later on this evening. This is a horse that I think initially I thought was too reactive, but I'm definitely having some second thoughts on her because she is such a good looking horse. This one also did have some bids on her when I initially made that other video, but I think now she has 0. At this point, I feel like my brain is playing tricks on me, so I am just going to pop back over and see if she did have bids on her when I looked at her the other day. I'm beginning to think that I went at this whole internet adoption process in the completely wrong way. I think I should have just ignored all of the bids and picked out my absolute favorite horses, because it seems like all of this bidding and retracting of bids is really going to mess up my game plan. Another horse that I wanted to take a second look at was this cute little girl that has a little bit of a kinked ear. As I was scrolling down to take a closer look at her, I noticed that somebody had retracted their bid, and this guy was back down to very close to what I had initially bid on him. This one really threw me for a loop, and I was not quite sure what to do in this situation. There are only about 3 hours left. I actually have to go to the barn fairly soon, so I can't just sit down and watch this number. Right now, he is literally $5 more than my current high bid, so it seems silly not to put in another bid. I think a few other bidders were pretty excited to see his price go down, because it wasn't long before someone had put in a new bid of looks like $1,000, and then the Proxy bidder jumped it back up to $1,005. Since there's literally no consequences for bidding a gigantic amount on these horses, I could have put in a bid for $10,000 and then when I got him just decide I didn't want him. That is something that you could never do at a typical auction, and I was curious to see what horses were bringing high prices. This little horse was bid up to a couple $1,000s, and when I looked at the video, it was pretty obvious it was because there was some natural gaitedness to the horse. I had to do a double take because I was sure this was the mare that I was just thinking about. She is the same age, she is very close in color, and she's actually from the same HMA, but her price is now over $1,000. Kind of cool to see these two girls in a side-by-side. I'm guessing the one that has been bid up to $1,000 is just because she's a little bit more calm in the pen, because I think this horse is the better pick of the two. As the end of the auction got closer and closer, I could tell that everybody bidding was stressing the BLM's website. I have seen it crash in the past, and that really does just mess up all of the bidding. So if you want one of these horses, it's better to get your bids in sooner in the case of something like that happening. At this point, I have no active bids on any of the horses. I'm in a little bit of a tricky situation because if I bid on another horse and the people that got the Palomino cancel their bid or decide they don't want him, I will not be offered a second chance offer. With a little bit over 10 minutes left in the auction, these are some of my top picks. There's only 2 horses in here that do not have any bids on them. I was really hoping that the website would function better than this, but it is taking a lot of time to upload. Even though I've thought about this decision for the last couple of days, I'm having a real struggle trying to decide what I'm going to do at this point. If I don't put any other bids in, I will not be offered any more second chance offers. These horses do not have a buy it now option after the auction, so if I don't bid on anything, the chances of me getting one are pretty slim. I very quickly went back through and watched all of the horses that I wanted to keep a track of the price in the last couple of seconds. With 10 minutes left in the bidding, it looks like all of the horses I had my eyes on do have bids except this girl. I've been to a ton of auctions and nothing could have prepared me for the stress that came around trying to decide which horse I wanted to bring home on this internet adoption. Do I stick with my initial bid on the Palomino and hope that they don't want him, or do I place another bid and hope that I don't get outbid by another buyer? My brain was definitely going one way and my heart the other, and I decided in the last minute that I would just ride it out and see what happens. The little 3-year-old did get a bid on him, so somebody is going to hopefully be taking him home. If I really want to bring this guy home, I'm going to have to place a bid in the last couple of seconds of the auction so no one can outbid me. I'm really struggling with paying so much for an unhandled Mustang, and my brain is working overtime right now trying to decide what is the right decision. In the end, I just couldn't justify paying so much money for a horse that some other people obviously really want. In the last couple of seconds, somebody else tried to get him for $1,200, but this Proxy bidder obviously has a much higher ceiling than everybody else who bid. It looks like the high seller for this sale was this super cute little Pinto for $5,000. As I scrolled through my watched horses, it looks like all of them, even this super cute little 3-year-old, got some bids at the very last seconds. Even if I had decided to bid on her, I would have been outbid by another buyer, so that eases my mind a little bit. I've spent a lot of time the last couple of days planning for this little Palomino to come to my house, and now that the auction is finally over, I am a little bit upset about it. When I go to a regular auction, I only have plans to bring the horse home for a couple hours before the sale, so when I don't win it, it's a little bit easier to let go, but this guy I've been thinking about for literally months. I couldn't get this guy out of my head, and I decided to email the BLM to see how many days I had to wait to see if I got a second chance offer on him. Yesterday, there were 121 pages of horses, so some of them have been paid for already, like this little 3-year-old already got paid for, so she's been taken down. While I would love to get a second chance on this one-eared guy, I don't really think that is going to happen. I still would love to get a Mustang, so I went back and I looked at some of the horses I was watching that did not get any bids. This little girl with the kinked ear is from the same HMA as that Palomino horse. If you imagine her without the little kink in her ear, she is a really classy looking little filly. There was some talk about her on the internet that she may look a little lame, but I think that's just how she's moving because she's trying to figure out her surroundings with one ear. This super cute little bay horse also did not get any bids. He is only listed as 13 hands tall, but this measurement was taken in April, so he's had 6 more months to grow, and I'm certain that he has hit that 14 hand mark by now. If I don't get any second chance offers, I am thinking that I might call ahead and see if I can pick up one of these horses that didn't get any bids. I didn't want to put any calls in about the leftover horses until I saw that the Palomino had been claimed. After checking the website obsessively for 2 days, he finally was showing up as no longer available, which means his new owners did pay for him. I am still holding out for this plain little brown horse that only has one bid on him. If his new owners pass, then this one is definitely the one that I'll be calling on to pick up and bring home. Thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next video.